Welcome back to the Weekly Education Pulse. I'm Sammy.
And I'm Tony. Each week we break down the key developments shaping the international independent school sector.
This week, 5 stories from 5 very different corners of the world, and what connects them is a single observation worth holding on to as we go through them.
The world is not waiting for students to come to it. It's bringing education frameworks, its brands and credentials to where the students already are.
Cyprus, Greece, Vietnam, Lebanon and India. Let's get into it.
And we begin this week in Cyprus, where the private education sector is in the middle of a significant expansion, driven largely by rising demand from internationally mobile families.
28 private schools across the island have applied to expand or develop their campuses under a planning incentive scheme introduced by the Cypriot Interior Ministry. Of those, 10 applications have been approved, 3 rejected, and 15 remain under review.
Limassol leads with 13 applications, reflecting its position as the primary destination for internationally mobile families relocating to Cyprus, many of them arriving following geopolitical shifts in Eastern Europe and the wider region.
The incentive scheme itself is actually worth understanding. It allows schools to exceed standard building coefficients and reduce required open space and sports area minimums with the Education Ministry's consent. Fast-track procedures require all departments to complete applications within 4 months, and the scheme was explicitly designed to help existing schools expand and to encourage new educational units where demand is growing fastest.
The underlying numbers give the context. Over the past 5 years, private pre-reception schools in Cyprus have grown from 170 to more than 190. Private primary schools have grown from 30 to over 40, and secondary schools have focused more on expanding existing facilities than creating entirely new institutions.
Now, what this tells us about Cyprus is something the sector has been tracking for some time. The island has become a genuinely significant relocation destination for internationally mobile professionals and families, and the private school market is responding, not by building in anticipation, but by expanding to meet demand that is already there.
Our second story takes us to Greece, and to a development that until a few years ago would simply not have been possible. 7 universities from the United States, United Kingdom, France and Cyprus have received formal licenses to open branch campuses in Greece from the 2026-27 academic year.
The newly approved institutions include Georgetown University, Roger Williams University, which will operate together as the American University of Greece in Athens. Iowa State University of Science and Technology will establish a campus in Thessaloniki with a particular focus on agriculture and science. And from the UK, the University of Essex, the University of Derby, and France's University Sorbonne Paris, Nord were re-evaluated and cleared to continue.
Until recently, Greece was one of the few countries in the world where non-state universities were simply not permitted to operate. The change in the law represents a significant shift in how Greece thinks about higher education, and it was driven explicitly by the need to address brain drain.
Greece's Deputy Minister of Education was direct about it. For decades, he said, thousands of young Greek people had gone abroad to study, weakening the international position of Greek higher education in the country's talent base. The new framework, described as one of the strictest institutional frameworks in Europe, is designed to bring some of that demand back on shore.
Each approved institution can now establish and operate in Greece, but individual degree programs still require separate accreditation through Greece's Hellenic Authority for Higher Education. So the license is the beginning, not the end of the process.
And what's interesting about the story is, the context of this week's episode is the parallel with Cyprus. Both countries are small Mediterranean European nations with significant diaspora populations, high rates of immigration among the educated, and a growing recognition that keeping talent local requires bringing internationally recognized education local. Different mechanisms, planning incentives in Cyprus, university licensing in Greece, but the same underlying logic.
Our third story takes us to Southeast Asia, where Fairmont International School Vietnam officially launched this week in Hanoi, bringing a 70-year Californian education legacy to the region for the first time.
Fairmont Schools was founded in California in 1953, now operates 6 campuses worldwide, and Hanoi is the first in Southeast Asia. The school opened its doors on the 17th of August and will serve students from primary through to high school following the US Common Core standards, with advanced placement courses planned as part of the senior pathway.
Fairmont is a member of International School Partnership, one of the largest international school groups in the world, with over 110 schools across 25 countries. The connection to that network gives students in Hanoi access to international learning experiences, collaborative projects, and exchanges that a standalone campus simply couldn't offer.
Yeah, the school is also offering a pathway aligned with Vietnam's Ministry of Education and Training requirements, giving families the flexibility to choose an international track or one that meets local curriculum obligations. The dual track model is increasingly how well-designed international schools are entering the Vietnamese market, not ignoring the national system, but working alongside it.
The founding superintendent, Alan Stanley McInnes, describes the goal not just as opening a school, but as building a multicultural community where every student feels supported to explore their potential and confidently step out into the world. That language is familiar in international school announcements. What gives it more weight here is that 94% of Fairmont graduates across its existing campuses are accepted into top 100 US universities. The brand carries genuine academic credibility, not just a legacy name.
And Vietnam continues to be one of the most active international school markets in Southeast Asia. And what is notable about Fairmont's arrival is that it adds a distinctly American curriculum voice to a market that has, until recently, been dominated by British and IB offerings. The diversity of curriculum choice available to Vietnamese families is expanding rapidly.
Our fourth story comes from the Lebanon and is one that sits a little differently from the others this week.
Universal School Lebanon has announced a partnership with Rosedale International Education, a Toronto-based Canadian school inspected and authorised by the Ontario Ministry of Education to offer the Ontario Secondary School Diploma from September 2026. Students will graduate with two credentials, the Lebanese baccalaureate they would have received regardless, and a Canadian OSSD that is recognised by universities in Canada, the UK, the US, Australia, Germany, Singapore, and beyond.
And to understand why this matters, you have to understand where Lebanon is right now. The country has been through one of the most severe economic collapses in modern history, with the currency losing a vast majority of its value, the banking sector effectively frozen, and the professional class experiencing extraordinary pressure on living standards. In that context, internationally portable education credentials are not just an academic aspiration. They are, for many families, a practical lifeline.
Yeah, what the Rosedale Partnership offers is a pathway to internationally recognised qualifications without requiring students to leave Lebanon. The OSSD is assessed by Ontario certified teachers in Canada and carries an Ontario Ministry of Education number. So it's genuine Canadian credential, not a local approximation of one.
The model Rosedale uses is not unique to Lebanon. It partners with schools across more than 17 countries. But in the Lebanese context, the significance is particular. Families who cannot afford to relocate or who choose not to can now give their children a qualification that opens doors at global universities from within their own school in their own city.
It's a small story in scale. One school, one partnership, one cohort starting in September, but the logic it embodies is worth naming. International credentials are increasingly decoupled from the physical experience of studying in an international setting. The framework can come to the student in a country where so much has been taken away. That is not a small thing.
Our final story this week takes us to Hyderabad, India, where a new early childhood school, Wellington International School, Hyderabad, has opened its doors.
The school was founded by Deepti Chitkara and Manav Puri, and the curriculum they have designed is worth looking at carefully because it is in itself a kind of map of how globally influential ideas about early childhood education are traveling.
The curriculum draws from four distinct international traditions: Scandinavian learning models, which emphasize outdoor play, independence, and relaxed approach to structured academic content in early years; Japanese principles of mindfulness, self-care, and the development of responsibility in young children; and the Reggio Emilia approach from northern Italy, which treats children as active constructors of their own understanding. A philosophy we have covered in our show before in the context of Princess Kate's visit to Reggio and the influence on schools in Rome, and the International Baccalaureate's early years framework.
What's striking about the list that Tony just named there is that not one of those traditions originates in India, and yet here they are, shaping what a new preschool in Hyderabad looks like in 2026.
This is an observation about how education philosophy travels and about the appetite among new generation of school founders in India cities to draw from the best of what the world has developed rather than defaulting to a single approach.
And the school founder puts it simply, the aim is to create a safe, engaging environment where children develop confidence, creativity, empathy, and a lifelong interest in learning. Those are not distinctly Scandinavian or Japanese or Italian goals. They are goals that happen to be well served by pedagogies that emerged in very different cultural contexts, and a small school in Hyderabad has decided to bring them all together.
And in the context of this week's episode, it is perhaps the most personal of our 5 stories. No group, no capital, no regulatory framework. Just 2 founders who decided their children in their city deserve something more intentional and went looking for the best ideas the world has to offer.
And with that, brings us to the end of this week's episode.
Cyprus and Greece, Vietnam, Lebanon and Hyderabad. 5 stories about international recognised education finding its way into new contexts.
Through planning incentives, through university licensing, a California brand opening in Hanoi, Canadian Diploma arriving in Lebanon, and through pedagogical philosophies from 3 continents shaping a single preschool in India.
Different mechanisms, different scales, different motivations, but each of them a family looking for something beyond what their immediate context can offer, and finding it getting closer.
So, if there's a development in your region that we should be covering, please do get in touch. We'll be back next week with another global update. Until then, see you next time.